The cop said, "You're under arrest for murder." I said, "I know. I called you here." The cop froze. His hand was still on his holster. "What did you just say?" "I called 911 4 minutes ago. Reported a body at this address. Then I waited outside for you to arrive." He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. 2 more squad cars pulled up behind him. Officers jumped out with their guns drawn. "Hands where I can see them." I raised them slowly, calm, controlled. I'd been waiting 8 years for this moment. 8 years since my mother died. 8 years since everyone believed it was an accident. 8 years of knowing the truth and having no one listen. They cuffed me, patted me down, shoved me into the back of a squad car. I didn't say another word. Not in the car. Not during processing. Not when they took my fingerprints and my photo. I just waited. An hour later, they put me in an interrogation room. Gray walls, metal table, one-way mirror. A detective walked in. Older guy, tired eyes. He sat down across from me and opened a folder. "You want to tell me why you called 911 to report your own murder?" "It's not my murder. There's a dead body in that house and you were standing outside covered in his blood." I looked down at my shirt. I went in after the killer left, checked for a pulse. There wasn't one. Then I called 911 and waited outside. "So you contaminated my crime scene." "I gave you your crime scene. That's not my blood, and I didn't kill him, but I know who did." The detective leaned back. "Okay, I'll bite. Who killed him?" "Before I answer that, I need you to pull a case file." Cold case. 8 years old. A woman named Margaret Easton. He didn't move. Why? Because that's where this started. He stared at me for a long moment, then stood up and walked out. 20 minutes later, he came back with a dusty folder. Margaret Easton. Age 42. Died from a fall down the stairs. Ruled accidental. She didn't fall. She was pushed. And you know this how? Because she was my mother. The detective's face changed. He looked at the folder again, then at me. Says here the husband was cleared. Airtight alibi. Co-workers confirmed he was at the office. His co-workers lied, and the man in that house tonight is one of them. I watched him connect the dots. The victim tonight helped cover up your mother's murder. His name is Paul Whitmore. He was my stepfather's business partner for 15 years. He helped fake the alibi. He helped make it look like an accident. And 3 weeks ago, he called my stepfather and said he wanted out. Said he couldn't live with it anymore. The detective was writing now. "How do you know about this phone call?" "Because I've been listening to my stepfather's calls for 6 years, recording everything, waiting for him to slip. The first 2 years, I was just a kid trying to get adults to believe me. Once I turned 18, I started collecting my own evidence. That's illegal. So is murder." He stopped writing. "If you knew Whitmore was going to talk, why didn't you just let him go to the police?" "Because my stepfather doesn't let people talk. I've had a tracker on his car for 2 years. When he drove to Paul's house at 11 p.m. with no meeting scheduled, I knew what was coming. I parked down the street, waited for the gunshot. Then I called 911. The detective sat back. "You have proof of all this?" I reached into my pocket. He tensed. I moved slowly and pulled out a USB drive, slid it across the table. 6 years of phone recordings, financial records showing payments to the co-workers who lied, emails between my stepfather and Paul discussing how to handle the investigation. Everything. He picked up the drive. "Why didn't you take this to the police years ago?" "I tried. Twice. First time the detective told me I was a grieving kid looking for someone to blame. Second time my stepfather's lawyer showed up before I even finished talking, threatened to sue me for defamation." I leaned forward. "But tonight is different. Tonight there's a fresh body. Tonight there's a crime scene your department has to investigate. Tonight my stepfather can't make a phone call and make this disappear." The detective looked at the USB drive, then at the cold case folder, then at me. He stood up without a word and walked out. I sat alone for 2 hours, watching the clock, wondering if I'd miscalculated. Then the door opened. The detective stepped in with 2 officers behind him. "We picked up Richard Easton 20 minutes ago. Residue on his hands. Gun was still in his car. He thought he had time to dump it. Didn't expect anyone to call it in within 4 minutes." I closed my eyes. 8 years. His lawyer's already screaming, but with the recordings and the forensics, it's not going to matter. I opened my eyes. "What about me?" "You're free to go. We might need you to testify." "I'll be there." He studied me for a moment. "You planned this whole thing, didn't you? Every detail." I stood up slowly. "I promised my mother I'd make it right. Took me 8 years to keep that promise." The trial lasted 3 weeks. Richard Easton got life without parole. 2 counts of first-degree murder. I didn't cry when they read the verdict. I'd done all my crying 8 years ago. After it was over, I drove to the cemetery. Stood in front of my mother's grave for the first time since her funeral. I didn't say anything. Didn't need to. She already knew.